Tuesdays with Murray, Chapter 6. The next morning, I woke up with what could only be described as unlimited optimism. Some would call it misplaced optimism, like that of a dog with a bowl of ice cream in a car on his way to be euthanized. But this was the start of the best chapter of my life. Some would call it perpetual and progressive unemployment, but only those without imagination. While everyone else was just going through the motions, I was choosing my own adventure. I still had to wake up early. I didn't even need to set an alarm. Gary's music came through the ceiling like traveling troubadours, as reliably as a rooster crowing, which meant he was drinking whiskey and painting. Who paints at 6 a.m.? Gary sucks at being retired. I had to head into Manhattan to the writing conference Claudia gave me a ticket to. It was in the lobby of a hotel in Times Square when a woman approached me, presumably a hotel guest, and spoke to me with a Minnesota accent. She looked the same age as my mom, but she was fatter and had the same poofed haircut that she probably had in her yearbook photo. Her husband was studying a New York travel guidebook. "Excuse me, do you know where the nearest Olive Garden is?" she asked. I did know where the nearest Olive Garden was. I had actually just walked past it, wondering why anyone eats there while they're on vacation. Something against the Olive Garden. I love their breadsticks and big old jug of wine on the table as much as anyone. But come on, YOLO. "Yeah, it's across the street," I told her. "Oh, thank Jesus. I knew this was a good hotel." She turned to her husband and told him loudly, "It's across the street, don't you know? We won't have to take a taxi late at night." "Great. Leave me be. I'm studying this map." "Wait, you're in New York," I said. "You're on vacation, I'm assuming. Wouldn't you rather go to an Italian restaurant you can't go to while you're at home?" Again, this is nothing against the Olive Garden. I'm just advocating for new experiences. "Oh dear, we did last night, don't you know? But the whole menu was in Italian. We accidentally ordered a chicken parmesan for dessert." I failed to see the problem. How could she not be taking my advice? I am the unemployed creator of the Bird Crack House, after all. "Best dessert I ever had," said the husband. She added, "And we kept ordering soup, not realizing it wasn't unlimited, and wound up spending more on that than the wine. Thank you, dear. Irv, let's go. We need to get our Wicked tickets." As they walked away, I was approached by the doorman. He was wearing a black top hat with a matching long sport coat that had gold buttons running down its center. Each word he spoke to me was emphasized with an air of authority. "Excuse me, sir. Are you a guest of this hotel?" "No, I'm here for the writing conference," I told him. "Then I suggest you get there and stop bothering the guests." He was an arrogant doorman. Lapels have a way of going to a man's head, even when you're the doorman in a hotel with automatic doors. But not looking to be thrown out, I just headed to the conference room. A row of doors with a sign for the speaker, Tony Powers, was to the right of the check-in desk. Only one of the doors was open, and everyone filed through lifelessly like the world's saddest conga line. It was an eclectic group of people. Some were dressed in suits, some were in sweatpants, some were old, some were young, some were men, some were women, and I'm so sure some were gender non-conforming, non-binary, or whatever. Because I'm the one that's boring. Just a cisgendered straight guy who gets dumped online. Once inside, I saw the room was as ritzy as it was large. Chandeliers like frozen fireworks hung from its aluminum ceiling above the oak floors. An erected stage had a podium that faced rows upon rows of metallic, armless chairs set up for us aspiring writers. Not only was my ticket free, but there was free food, too. I mean, it was just cookies and other pastries, but I'm unemployed, so I need all the free stuff I can get. Besides, I'm an adult. I can eat whatever I want for breakfast. It's really the only benefit to the whole ordeal. As I loaded up on crumb cake and Milanos, I noticed the seductive manicured hand on the cookie tongs belonging to a girl behind me. She had silver rings on all of her fingers and the black outline of a heart tattooed on her middle one. As my eyes went from her hands past her Fitbit up her arms, I saw it led up to a sexy goth chick dressed in a red plaid dress whose hair fell just below her shoulders. Just the other day, I told Ted how I always wanted to date a goth chick. This was my chance. The world had yet again conspired in my favor. I said, "Hi, come here often?" At this point, the only thing less impressive than my savings account was my flirting bank. "Oh yeah, all the time," she said, dryly, rolled her eyes, but reconnected them with mine and smiled. "Same. You don't get cookies like these in AA meetings," I told her. "Yeah, I'm in AA too," she said. "How long have you been going for?" Oh, I soberly stumbled for words like the prick that I was, drunk off insensitivity. "I don't really go to AA, I was just, joking." Her dark eyes shifted above her pale skin and smoky mascara, and from her lips, as smoothly and potent as cigarette smoke, left, "What's funny about that?" My one chance with a goth chick, taken away faster than a license after a DWI. The world conspiring in my favor is only a benefit when I stop conspiring against myself. Look, I'm just going to go find a seat and remind myself while I stick to online dating. I like your rings, cool tattoo, and throw in any other compliment you've heard probably 1,000 times before. "Wait, I'm just fucking with you," she said, smiling, and she touched my shoulder. "But I'm taking a cookie for your insensitive comment." "Punishment fits the crime," I said. Not trying to force my value system of sobriety on you, but for what it's worth, people can and do bring better cookies than these to AA meetings. Feel free to stop by. "Isn't there a whole religious aspect to it, though?" I asked. "Kind of. Sometimes it's a bit much, but it's better than waking up in your apartment not sure if you broke everything in it or got robbed the night before, and getting pissed off calls from someone you don't remember saying you owe them money." "I would imagine that's true," I said. "So you're a writer?" she asked. "No, I'm a cookie tester." "Wow, you're like accomplished as fuck. A lot of schooling for that?" "Oh, you can't teach this. It's something you're born with," I told her. She laughed, but left the ball in my court to keep the conversation going. Silence from women seems so much a part of the mating dance that I often wondered what cavemen did to woo women before language, sports cars, and lying was invented. I guess they just clubbed them. Suddenly, lying didn't seem like such a bad trade-off. "So, what do you do?" I asked. "I write for Bullet Hole. You know, the accomplished mag, so Pulitzer-worthy it's given out for free at bodegas and vape shops just to stay humble. But I must specialize in unfinished novels, because I have more of them than anything else." I told her I had just finished my book. At least I think I did. How am I supposed to hear what I'm saying when someone so intimidatingly attractive is in front of me, making me think about what to say next? The pitfalls of meeting someone somewhere besides a dating app. She said, "I really admire that. I've been working on my book for like 5 years. Every time I think it's finished, I read it over, and it makes me want to vomit. So I just delete it." Maybe that's how she stayed so thin, despite eating 8 cookies before noon. Good thing for both of us, bulimia is not a deal breaker for me. She continued, "I have to stop writing while I'm high or on my period. I always wind up regretting it. That's probably why you were able to finish yours. No periods." "Actually, my book has a lot of periods. They're just at the end of sentences." More silence from her, though this time I blamed it on my bad joke more than the mating dance. "You're lucky I love bad jokes," she said. "So how long did it take you to finish your book?" Hearing she had spent years writing the same unfinished book hit my brain like eating ice cream too fast. 5 years. Is this how long it took people to write books? How could I admit it to her that it only took me a few months? Was I a savant? Or had I skipped 1, 2, or 10 steps like some overachieving slinky? Technically, I joined Facebook 10 years ago. Could I say 10 years? I told her, "I've been writing it so long when I started, people used pens." "How old are you?" "I'm sorry, is that rude?" she asked. It's only rude that you think I'm old enough to be offended by the question. "How old do you think I am?" "I'd say like 30-ish. She waved her hand back and forth like she was weighing her guess. "I'm actually 13, but I smoke and drink a ton and never use sunscreen, so this is what I look like. A 13-year-old trapped in the body of some good-looking 30-ish-year-old. She laughed, and it felt like I was hearing my score go up with her. You're funny. Guess my age. If I was going to, which I wasn't, I would have said somewhere in her 20s. She had a presence and maturity that betrayed her age. But most of the women I meet around my age have lost the air of idealism she possessed, and by now are inviting me to a funeral for the last of their fertile eggs, disguised as meeting for a drink. I don't guess ages. It's why I got fired from the carnival, I told her. Why don't we go sit down over at that table? We took a short walk to 2 empty seats at a round table that had some other attendees at it. Some were writing, others were reading. At a writing conference, these activities just looked really try-hard. So what is your story about? I asked her. It's about a girl and her relationship with her mother who died while giving birth to her. She's 13 and... I had to cut her off. Well, I didn't have to, but I did. So if you've been writing the story for 5 years, that would make the girl 18 now? I laughed. She didn't. You're not allowed to make fun of it, she warned. You don't have enough cookies left for me to take as punishment. I felt bad for a second and turned my head towards the stage. It must have been the first time that I pulled my eyes away from her, because this place, at some point, had become filled with aspiring authors. She continued, the whole story is written in emails between her mother and her, sent from the future, and she's warning her about different stages of life. I always thought everything someone created was somewhat biographical, so I'm assuming this girl must have a dead mother sending her emails. Could God make a file so big he couldn't download it? I hate talking about it, she said. It sounds stupid when I say it out loud. This would sound stupid even if she didn't say it out loud, but I'm trying to get laid, so I would refrain from practicing Ted's endorsed radical honesty. I think it's genius, and I mean that even though I'm hitting on you. I didn't mean it, but I was hitting on her. She laughed. Oh, really? Really? We should go out. We just met. Why would I go out with you? I honestly didn't have a reason for her. On paper, I was unemployed and losing my hair, and off paper, I was unemployed, losing my hair, and would probably be homeless in a few months. Dating was worse than a job interview. A woman in HR rejected your resume. A woman anywhere else rejected you. You know all those mixed couples you see? I asked. Like mixed race? She said. No, where one person is clearly much hotter than the other. That could be us. I won't say which one is who, but you seem smart enough to figure it out. Well, coming from a venerated cookie tester such as yourself, I'm honored that I seem smart enough. You know, you have a lot of confidence for someone with powdered sugar all over their shirt. You've been hitting on me for 10 minutes, and you still don't know my name. She said it from behind a deceiving half-smile, but an alluring one, not one caused by polio or a stroke. You're right. Let's change that. I'm Will. I'm Marissa. Our conversation flowed so naturally. I wasn't searching for words just to keep her around like people in the park befriending pigeons with thrown popcorn in incremental amounts. We should exchange numbers now. I honestly don't know how much longer I can talk to you without saying something so stupid that it would be impossible to come back from, I said. You're right. I don't think you have it in you either. Your self-awareness is quite attractive. She texted me her number, and then she asked, so what do you really do for a living? Perhaps I hadn't come across as competent enough to have been a cookie tester / author. Either way, I just pretended I didn't hear it. Some questions are better left unanswered, especially when the answer sucks. She didn't ask again. She said, so what's your plan for your book now that it's written? She asked. Put it up for sale, watch the money roll right in, I told her. That's a good plan. I wish I had thought of it. Is there something else you're supposed to do with it? I asked. Well, whenever I finish my book, I'm going to put it up online for free. Then whoever wants it can download it, and hopefully it will be so popular that I can get paid for my next book. What the fuck? You can't do that, I told her. Typical male, telling a woman what she can and can't do. It's my book. I can do whatever I want with it. If only she knew I invented the Bird Crack House, she'd take my suggestions more seriously. Why would you give something you've been working on for 5 years away for free like Chinese food at the mall on a toothpick? There's more to life than money. And, look at all the web pages and apps that are making money. They're all free, and it worked out for them. Nobody knows who I am. They're not going to pay for my book, she told me. Meet more people then. I hope to awaken some sense of capitalism inside of her. But by now, everyone her age had done so many free internships, they thought they needed some massive Twitter following before they could charge a nickel for anything they've done. Bringing more people into my life is not exactly what I've been going for, she told me. Ah, there are no seats near the stage left. We have to go find a seat. You have my number. You better text me. I've been trying to date more generic-looking white guys. I usually only date black guys, so you should take this as a compliment. I will, and I've been wanting to date more pale women who give books away they write for free. There were no empty seats next to each other, so we had to split up. Between free cookies and her phone number, this day was going amazing. The only seat I could find was in the front row. I didn't want to sit in the front, but how bad could it be? It was a writing conference, not a comedy club. I found a seat next to a man who looked like an old urban cowboy. He was so solid and built that he took over the entire chair he was seated in. He had a square face that looked worn but alert. He had on generic American blue jeans, snake leather shoes, and a black cowboy hat with a silver ram's head necklace beaming out over his black t-shirt. In the back of his hand, he had a 666 tattooed. I don't know why, but I asked him, "So what's your book about?" He looked at me and gave the impression that for some, his dark brown eyes were the last that they saw. "Pie," he said. His voice was deep and gruff like a cartoon villain. His gaze turned back to the stage. "What kind of pie?" I asked. Everything he said sounded like a warning. It's about a southern plantation owner in the Civil War. He buys slaves, lots of them. They're not exactly free, but he treats them good. But not good the way you treat a dog you love. That's just spoiling. Nah, he continued. He treats them decent, like people, the kind you respect. While he talked, he rolled a coin between his fingers and, like a magic trick, made it disappear. Where the F was I? Gives them pie? I asked. He spoke slow and definitively. One day, he becomes their slave. He has them order him around, do things, farm. The question isn't different from the question we ask ourselves each day standing above our graves. When we're ordered to be free, are we free? Rich people, they can do whatever the fuck they want. But the rest of us are slaves until our time comes. But how was that about pie? I'm sorry, did I not hear you right? You want to know about the pie? Buy the fucking book. Hell of a businessman for a cowboy. Everyone else in the room is just looking at their phone and ignoring the person next to them. Why did I always have to be so different? My enthusiasm for being here was plummeting like the pony that wandered into our backyard pool at my 5th birthday party. And I found myself looking forward to this starting just so that it could finish, like sex with someone you've fallen out of love with. But then the lights dimmed and a song blasted that sounded like the theme to a game show, and everyone erupted into a game show-like applause. From the sound system, a man's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, introducing a man who needs no introduction, 5-time New York Times best-selling mystery author, and here today to turn your literary dreams from fiction into nonfiction. Give it up for Tony Powers." I had never heard of Tony Powers, but it was obvious that here I was the only one. I had never been to a megachurch either, but this is always how I pictured it, but with more singing and fainting. Onto the stage came a man who was so fit and energetic he looked like he could have been leading a Zumba class in a gray suit and white button-down shirt. "How's everybody feeling today?" he asked. People cheered. I said, "How's everybody feeling?" People cheered louder. "All right, let's write some fucking books." There's no way I heard that correctly. I said, "Let's write some fucking books." People clapped and cheered. Okay, I heard it correctly. This guy is an author. He looked like a personal trainer. And everyone here was clapping and cheering. The cowboy, the doorman who had given me shit before, he came in here, he was clapping. Everybody clapping, hooting, hollering. As the applause died down, the lights came up. Some people's hands were red, they clapped so hard. Some of you already know me. Those of you who don't, I am Tony Powers, and I used to be 315 pounds. But then one day, I reached for a pen instead of a donut. Every time I was hungry, I wrote. Also, portion control. Calories in, calories out. The eyes of all in attendance were up and locked. Laptop screens were pointed up and hands were poised, hovering over their keyboards, ready to take notes from the man of the hour whose name was Tony Powers. There was a difference between wanting to be led and taken along for the ride. It was as if, in one full swoop, Tony Powers had bubble-wrapped and created this conference room, and we were all willing cargo attached to the back of his seminar spaceship going somewhere. My phone was in my hands, and I was ready to take notes like the others. Tony said, "I used to feel up against the wall. Not sure if I was out of ideas or just filled with too many. But I knew one thing. I knew that I wanted to create. I knew that I wanted to write. I was lonely, but I knew that I wanted to connect with people on the grandest scale. I was exactly like you. Wanted to write for others, to enrich the lives of millions of people and contribute to God's divine plan. But at the end of today, all of you will have the tools you need to write your very own book for publication, no matter where you are in the process. I want to inspire you to look inside yourself and turn what you see into the next bestseller. Does that sound good?" People cheered. "Okay, let's go." As he was finishing his sentence, a giant movie screen lowered from the ceiling onto the stage like a gray waterfall in slow motion. On it was a huge Tony Powers on the screen with the same Grand Canyon-wide smile as the one on the stage. The two Tonys, the one on the stage and the one on the screen, began to converse. "Hello, Tony," said the Tony on the screen. "Hello, Tony," said Stage Tony replied. "You look huge up there." "Hope you don't mean I look fat," said Screen Tony. No, you've managed to control that through a combination of diet, exercise, and writing." "Thanks. It's all about believing in yourself. And I believe in you, Tony." Then Screen Tony looked at the audience and said, "And I believe in all of you. Do you mind if I speak to the audience for a bit?" What the hell was going on here? Everything was unsettling, yet familiar, like when you think you hear voices coming from the trunk of an Uber. This is not what I was expecting. Was this what Claudia did all day? I always thought she had a real highbrow, artsy job. On screen, Tony was now walking through a meadow that looked like all of the ones in prescription drug ads. Skipping rocks across a stream, he declared, "Writing a book is an exciting endeavor, and I believe it is the one that we are all born to do. The origins of all the great writers, from Jesus to Mark Twain to Dr. Seuss, all had the same origin, the soul." On-screen images of space, Earth, and eventually Tony playing basketball, jumping rope, and showing off his abs. This is the same picture he uses in his dating apps. It's up to us to tap into our source like all of those who came before us. But how do we do it? Do we just sit around waiting for inspiration to appear, or do we go out and find it for ourselves? I think you know the answer, because I know you do. That's why you are here. Now there was just a lot of music and a video of Tony skydiving, throwing pens out onto the earth below him. The Tony on stage called for our attention, and he began speaking. "I used to be just like you." I sincerely doubted that. No one with abs like his has problems. "I was living in a small apartment that I could barely afford. I had no job, no girlfriend." Okay, maybe we were similar, but this describes a lot of people in the 21st century. Recently out of rehab or prison. Tony narrated a photo of him in a desert looking sad, surrounded by computers. "As a species, we've become disconnected from our one true source because of technology. Modern men and women are suffering under the weight of technology. For this journey, you won't need any fancy equipment, just the ancient pen to unearth uncharted territory inside you to create some of the greatest stories ever told." Are you ready for some exciting news? Today I am going to give all of you the power with my new system, from notebook to notebook to your book, the 30-day QWERTY Connection. This is a powerful system empowering you to create stories that stem from your true essence, your true spirit, and it is available to you today at a deep discount. Of course, the upsell. It was like the deli near my apartment that charged $1 for breakfast and $5 for coffee. Who was Tony Powers anyway? I looked him up on my phone and saw that he had sold millions of books in a genre called Christian thriller. His best-selling titles included Where Art Thou? The Revenge, The Prodigal Son, and its sequel, The Book, of Ezekiel. Reviews were mixed. Some declared that his books were necessary for our modern world and fearlessly advocated for the power of prayer. Others complained that the stories were elaborate, required a lot of investment, and often fell short at the end when the villains were smited by opportune lightning bolts and falling trees. Some readers bitched about the amount of dialogue he used to convey the story, but who doesn't love dialogue? People like that don't deserve books. Tony asked, "When I look out into the audience, you know what I see? I see writers of future best-selling romance novels, mystery, fiction, nonfiction, something in between, and..." He cut himself short. He was looking at the man next to me. "And I see a cowboy. Thanks for coming, Hoss." He started to squint and looked at the back of the room, and he yelled, "I also see cookies," when I specifically told them, "No cookies. It's okay, it's okay." I'm not sure who he was yelling at, but he was definitely yelling. After 4 deep breaths and smacking his cheeks like applying aftershave, he calmed down and regained his composure. He looked back at the audience and asked, "I don't know what you see when you look in the mirror, but the only makeover anyone here needs is from the inside out. And that is impossible without a Tony Powers pen, which all of you will be getting for free on your way out today. Don't feel like waiting? Take a look under your seat. A gift from your friend Tony to use in your notebook to notebook to your book workbook." Under our seats were pens taped to the bottom of the chairs like chewing gum. "They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but how can we be so sure? I wasn't there. Were you? My point is, it's time to stop taking other people's word for it. It's time to look deep inside yourself and say, 'Hey there, best-selling writer. How are you? I see you locked inside me. Here's a key. Oh, wait, no, it's not a key. It's a pen.'" Pretty powerful stuff, am I right? Everyone clapped. "Fuck this. I'm getting out of here." I got up from my chair and Tony turned his attention from the crowd to me. Sir, excuse me, sir, wait. I know it seems like we've covered a lot of ground, but we're not done yet. Not by a long shot. There's even more to come. Please sit down." Sitting in the front row really fucked me. Please sit down," he told me. "But, do you want cookies? Temptation is tough. I shouldn't have drawn attention to them. I'll see to it that you get all the cookies you want on the way out, but remember, portion control. Please sit back down. Thanks." And he gave me 2 thumbs up with a double point. Oh well, what the hell. I made it this far. I had nowhere else to be anyway. I've sat through tons of shit I didn't want to before. School, women's basketball, the musical Cats. None of them ended with free desserts. Now I'd like to turn this over to you. Do a little Q&A with your friend Tony. How's that sound? More clapping. What was wrong with me? Everyone else seemed into it. You know what? I'm always so negative and, as Gary puts it, curmudgeon-y. I'll ride this out and see where it goes. Who wants to kick us off? The first person to raise their hand and ask a question was one that shouldn't exist. An adult male with a bowl haircut reserved for 4th grade photos. Seriously, this guy should walk around with one of those laser backgrounds behind him. Yes, hello? Thank you for taking my question, Mr. Powers. I have written a book about a group of chairs in a high school band room that comes to life and make music when no one is sitting on them. I'm sorry, I just have to interrupt you, but I am loving it. Such a great tale of identity. If I had read that as a child, I think it would really have helped me. The way I am sure it's going to help others. I mean, if I had read that, who knows where I'd be right now? What's your question? I'm having trouble coming up with a name for it. Do you have any suggestions? I do. Just one. The only one you need. Why not use your Tony Powers pen and just start writing on something? I believe you'll find that the answer is already inside of you. Go ahead. See what happens. As soon as Bullcut began scribbling on his program, his eyes lit up like a child's when pouring out Halloween candy from a pillowcase. He yelled out, "Musical chairs, sit, happens. And musical chairs, too, the horn sectional sofa. Wow, thanks, Tony." Everyone cheered. Don't thank me. Thank yourself. Thank the pen. Sounds like a sequel's already in the works. The pen already believes in you. Why? Because we were all born to write. Is it any wonder there are more books and pens in the world than people? Any other questions? Tony continued. Yes, you. A girl who barely looked 18 stood up. She had green hair and glasses with green frames, and she wore a black t-shirt that read, "Abort Pro-Lifers." She asked in a nasally voice, "I was wondering, does it have to be a certain pen when we write? I find red alarming. It doesn't have to be red, does it?" "Doesn't matter what color, but I love how you are already thinking outside of the box and embracing the power of the pen. The pen never lies. That's some powerful stuff." Everyone clapped and smiled like the toy monkey that banged tambourines together. Audience member after audience member, question after question. "Do you think it's believable if I put vampires on Mars? Can a fetus know the identity of the man who killed her mother and grow up to seek revenge?" No matter who asked a question, and regardless of what they asked, they all received this type of praise from Tony that everyone wanted unflappably from literary critics, but I guess they'd all settle from their parents. The more questions that were asked, the more praise Tony doled out. To me, every word that shot out of these people's mouths was like confetti from bad idea party poppers. But Tony called each one groundbreaking, original, or innovative. One was all three. And if I knew that all of those were synonyms, a best-selling author like Tony knew too. He was a stone furnace of praise that people slid the clay of their doubts into, and out popped a statue of confidence. It had been a while since I had received any positive critique from anyone, so I figured, why not? Insincere compliments were better than no compliments. I raised my hand. "Oh, Cookie Guy. See, I bet you're glad you stuck around." "You don't have to raise your hand, man. We're not in class. We're all friends here." He laughed. Others laughed. I felt like a dumbass. But I could have sworn everyone else had raised their hand too and received no correction for doing so. So say you wrote a book with no story?" "That's amazing. So brave. I love books with no story. Sometimes I just curl up with a dictionary or a cookbook before I go to sleep at night. Just gets my mind going a million miles an hour, but in a good way. I think that's perfect. Remember, there's no rules. As long as it comes from the heart, you can't go wrong." Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. "So, there's no plots or characters. Say you just wrote it to entertain?" I asked. "Oh, yes. I didn't know where you were going with this, but it's on entertaining, like fancy parties and decor. No wonder you were getting up to check out the cookies. Part of your research. I think that's a great idea. Nice job," Tony said. People started clapping, but I cut them off. "No, let's just say it's a collection of your thoughts or comments, and they're funny." I didn't want to say specifically that I was turning my Facebook into an actual book. I can't handle another success like the Bird Crack House happening at my expense. For the first time, Tony was speechless. He was reeling for words, like watching a 60s rocker try and remember his song at a concert. He walked over towards his podium, poured himself water into a tall and narrow glass. You could hear the loud gulps pass through his lips and throat through the speakers over the dead air. No. I think you were better off with your first idea about soirees and fancy parties. This second idea, it just sounds like you would be copying and pasting your Facebook into a Word document. Don't do that." "I did do that." "With a pen?" "With a mouse and keyboard." "Yeah, a pen would never have let this happen," Tony assured me. He then went back into the unbreakable character that had all the answers, smoothing out his tracksuit with the palms of his hands and answering all the questions prior to mine with the enthusiasm he had been displaying all day. "That was a great question, though. I'm going to give you 2 pens because it sounds like you've got some demons you need to get inked out." He turned to the members of the audience and said, "Give him a round of applause. That was so brave. At least he's trying." He turned back to me, and with a wink and a gun gesture, he said, "I bet you're glad you stayed. You never know where life's going to take you, but make no mistake, it takes you. You don't take it. Are there any other questions?" Done with everything, I collapsed back into my seat and froze, as if the less I moved, the less I'd be seen to the audience, to which I had just been torn apart like a sheep through the teeth of a wolf. Nature's shredder. Was my book really that bad? Did he really love the others? Maybe he wasn't being patronizing. Maybe he was genuine, and he genuinely thought my book sucked. Maybe he was right. Maybe all of these ideas I've been scoffing at are good ones. What the hell do I know? He's the best-selling author here. When it ended, the audience spilled out back into the lobby of the hotel like a bottle of ink knocked onto a desk, filling it with their muddled conversations and testing out their Tony Powers pens on the backs of tickets and programs. Over the sound of the vacuuming by the hotel staff and the bell signaling the coming and going of luggage porters, Tony was selling and signing copies of his Notebook to Notebook to Your Book, the 30-day QWERTY pen connection behind a long table under bright lights. My eyes moved back and forth, scanning the room for Marissa, but instead, I spotted a girl who looked exactly like my ex-girlfriend. She must have thought I was checking her out. She wasn't completely wrong. Blonde girl in yoga pants with the top three buttons of her shirt undone. What else was I supposed to do with her? Shit, it was my ex-girlfriend. Not the one that had dumped me on Facebook, but the one that told me to turn my Facebook posts into a book. Shit, when she spotted me, her arm went up like she was trying to pick the highest apple off a tree, and she started waving at me. She then ran towards me, smiling. "Will!" she screamed. "Oh my God, is that you? I can't believe this. I thought you were trying to get cookies. How are you?" she asked. As soon as she started talking, I fell back in love with her British accent. Why did America give that up when we took our independence? "I'm good," I said. But I wasn't good. I was kind of annoyed that she looked hotter than when we broke up. You always want to think that you're with someone at their peak. Just because I'm perpetually in decline doesn't mean I have to date that way. Why was she here? I remembered her telling me that she didn't really read. She writes? "What are you doing here?" I asked. "Well," she began with a huge smile, foreshadowing that she was about to land a good news bat on the piñata of my life. By now, I knew that smile anywhere. "In some ways, I'm here because of you." "Oh my God," she said, laughing. That sounded so soccerish. It did, but I hadn't picked up on it until she mentioned it. "Remember how I used to love making lavender soaps, and everyone loved my soaps, and you told me I should shape them like dicks and sell them as bachelorette party gifts and shower sex toys? Well, I did it. I took your advice. I'm doing so much better than I ever could have dreamed. I must thank you," she added, while hugging me tight. "Maybe I should start making bird crack houses out of soap." "You're welcome. Glad I could help." "But I don't understand. You said you're here because of me," she exclaimed. "Oh, Tony Powers is helping to get the story of my company turned into a book. I don't know why he didn't like your Facebook book idea. Your status updates are always so funny. You know what I'm going to do? If I had to guess, I'd go with burn a pile of money right in front of me." She said, "I'll have him friend you on Facebook. Then he'll understand your book." "I always said you should make money off your status updates," she added. "I'm glad you're finally going for something. That makes one of us." "Here," she said. "You must let me thank you." From a large reusable shopping bag she was holding, she took out a smaller bag. It was a small brown satchel with a pink ribbon tied, closing it off at the top. "Will," she started, "you have changed my life." And with that, she handed me the bag, and on it, Soap Scum, the 10-inch soap company, was printed. I looked inside, and there was long dick soaps of varying colors that did in fact smell amazing. "Don't you just love the bag?" she asked. "We even took the name you came up with. Soap and cum equals Soap Scum." The marketers were like, "Soap Scum? That sounds dreadful." So you know what I did? I fucking fired them and called them all a bunch of old white C words when I did it. But I used the full words so they knew not to fuck with me. It's tough being a woman in business. You give them an inch and they take a mile. Meanwhile, we women will settle for 6 inches, if you know what I mean. The next group, same thing. I told them all, the marketers, the investors, the man who came up with this, he's a fucking genius. That's you, Will. You are a fucking genius. She was poking me hard in the chest when she said it. "You're either taking Soap Scum, or I'm taking the dick soaps elsewhere. And it worked. Will, you truly are a blessing." "Thanks," I said. "So people like the name Soap Scum?" "No, dear, it's testing terribly, but I don't care. You got something. You should come work for us. Y'all fit right in like the peppermint-scented bent soaps fit into Christmas stockings this season." She touched my arm. The diamonds on her watch were blinding. "You don't seem happy, Will. I thought you'd be excited to see that you had an idea that was so wildly successful." I think she'd be wildly surprised at just how frequently this had in fact been happening. "Happy? I'm thrilled for you. You've just never seen me thrilled before, so you have no point of reference for what it looks like." "You're too much, dear. You know, it's too bad we didn't work out," she said. "Yeah, but..." Then I wondered, why didn't we work out? She just ghosted on me. She sighed. "Ugh. I hate questions where the honest answer is the tough one to say. I'll be honest, and no offense. But I've got a lot of erotic requests that I didn't think you could handle." How does she know? I never get any erotic requests. I was wondering where these women are, and the whole time I'm dating one. Like getting peed on? I asked. Horrified, she said, like getting peed on? What the fuck? Did I just fuck a jellyfish or something, dear? Maybe you are a freak, and she nudged me with her elbow. I'm being patronized and called a prude in one gesture. Still scanning the room for Marissa, I now made eye contact with Tony. He got out from behind the desk, and he walked towards me, gesturing to the next person in line that he'd be right back. When he made it to us, he greeted Amanda. There she is, the queen of cocksoaps. He kissed her right on the lips. Hey, he said to me, I know you from somewhere. He tapped his chin while he thought about it. I was in the conference? No, that's not it, Tony replied. You thought I was getting up for cookies? Am I that forgettable? Oh yes, cookie guy, he responded. Tony, this is my ex-lover Will. He is a genius. He's the Will from my book. This is Prude Will? The Prude Will from the book who gave you the idea for the soaps? Wow. What? I'm not Prude Will. I'm Coffee Will. I'm going to be known as Prude Will in a book? Tony said. Hey, sorry about before. I think I came down too hard on your book inside. It's just because I get a vibe from you, man. You've got a great energy. You remind me of someone I knew once who had these amazing ideas that he never did anything with. Do you know what happened to him? Tony asked. No, I replied. Yeah, me neither. I think I saw him the other day, though, living in a dumpster with a sign that said blowjobs for crack. His handwriting was fucking terrible, and he used the number 4 instead of the word. How lazy can you get? Anyway, I can tell you're going to write a great story now that you have the power of the pen. I want to give you this. He pressed a copy of his notebook-to-notebook workbook in my chest. Enjoy. No charge. He smiled at me and winked at Amanda, and then vanished back towards his autograph table, but not before giving me another wink and a gun. Amanda and him left together, and I was left holding a bag of dick-shaped soaps and Tony's notebook. I saw Marissa was standing near a window. This day would have felt like a complete loss had I not met her. I maneuvered through the crowd to get to her. Marissa, I called out. She was standing by a window and looked like she was sending a text message. What did you think of the conference? Oh, hey, she said. Thought it was good. I was not picking up where we left off. You want to go grab a drink or something? I asked. I don't drink, remember? Anyway, now's really not a good time, she said. She then sighed deeply. In fact, I don't know if there will ever be a better one. I'm sorry, but my therapist is encouraging me to be more upfront about my feelings so that I don't devote all of my time to relationships that aren't going to fulfill me or push me further. But I don't think we should see each other. Not now. Not ever. She took a deep inhale, let out a deeper exhale, and smiled with relief. Wow, that felt great, she said. It did? Not to me. What could have happened? I'm not sure about this therapist's advice. I grow on people. You shouldn't be so quick to throw away people who won't fulfill you. So I told her. Or she said, It's just, she began, it's your book. I can't date someone whose art I don't respect. I didn't really care when I thought you were unemployed because you wouldn't answer my question about what you did, but I thought, well, he's a writer and he must be passionate. But your book, it just sounds so stupid. I'm sorry, that was mean. I'm sure it's not stupid. I'm normally not a bitch like this, so I'm going to go because I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. She walked away with more confidence than when I met her, but I wasn't glad I could help. Wait, she ran back towards me. Yes, she's giving me another chance. Women are perceptive. She knows I grow on people. I have to ask, because it will bother me all day, why are you holding a bag that says soap scum? That sounds dreadful. It wasn't testing well with her either. Oh, I said, it's a bag of dick soaps. And I opened the bag so she could look inside. She looked disgusted at the bag, and then looked disgusted at me, and then she left, disgusted. There was a lot of disgust generated in an instant. She couldn't date someone whose art she didn't respect? I could. I didn't respect her book, but I would have dated her. Besides, I wasn't an artist. I was a writer. Does this mean she considered herself to be an artist? Why? Because she wrote a few hundred pages high that she kept deleting? History is filled with writers who wrote high, and they managed to publish books. And that was before computers and copiers. Maybe the pen is the difference maker. So let's recap. So far, this fucking book has lost me my job, and the first, and probably last, hot goth girl I've ever gotten a number from. No, fuck this.
The old me would have let this bring me down. I would sit here and sulk, watching a girl walk away and leaving me holding a bag of dick soaps. But not the new me. Not today. Today I leave here and I'm taking my lavender-scented dick soaps consolation prize as a reminder that my ideas are genius. That they are not just for my ex-girlfriends and married women that I meet at weddings. I had to get home, and fast. Motivation is cheap, but momentum is fleeting.